Welcome to the Coherent Life. I'm Ty. We're going to kick back and talk about survival mode, coherence, and creating your life on purpose through real conversations about relationships, money, health, and the patterns that keep repeating in everyday life. If you already know that thoughts create reality but keep getting pulled into old patterns, stress, or overwhelm, you're in the right place. Hello again. Today, we're talking about something that sounds so simple, but is actually one of the most powerful skills you'll ever learn: identifying how you feel. Identifying your emotions is one of the foundational steps in creating your reality because emotions are the frequency that move us into action. I love thinking about the cognitive behavioral therapy model as a tool for creating. In CBT, we look at thoughts, feelings, and actions and how they shape our results. Here's how I break it down. Thoughts are electrical signals in the brain created through words. Emotions are the sensations that occur as a result of those words. Actions are the movements our body takes because of the frequency of emotion. Results are the effects of our actions. This process, thoughts, feelings, and actions, is happening all of the time, whether we're conscious of it or not. Where our self agency comes in is in our ability to do this process on purpose, to choose our thoughts, feelings, and actions intentionally. That's where identifying feelings comes in. You can't create results on purpose without knowing what's driving your actions. You could take all the action in the world, but if you don't know the emotional roots of those actions, you might be wasting time, energy, and money on actions that don't produce the results that you want. People ask me why I start with identifying feelings rather than thoughts, even though thoughts create emotions. The reason is simple. We can have over 60,000 thoughts per day. Emotions, they're visceral, they're physical, they're noticeable. They're a strong indicator of what you're thinking. If you can't name how you feel, it becomes much harder to identify the thoughts creating that feeling or the actions that emotion is moving you toward. And another reason why I start here is because most of us were never actually taught how to name emotions. If I think back to the earliest memory I have of learning about feelings, it was when I was very young, maybe in kindergarten. We had stickers with little faces on them: happy face, sad face, mad face, silly face. That was about it. And the messaging, whether it was explicit or subtle, was happy equals good. Anything else equals not good. So many of us internalize that happiness is the goal and every other emotion is a problem. Now, I do believe that elevated emotions like joy, love, and gratitude carry powerful creative capacity. They have a strong frequency. They move us into expansive action. But here's where it gets distorted. When we label every other emotion as bad, we start suppressing them. And suppressed emotions don't disappear, they intensify, they perpetuate. So instead of being genuinely happy, we're avoiding discomfort and calling it happiness. That's not coherence. That's denial. And not in the delulu is the solulu kind of delusion. I mean, bypassing what's actually happening in your body. And when we bypass, we don't create consciously, we create from what we're avoiding. We weren't taught emotional nuance. We were taught good or bad. And this shows up most clearly in relationships. One of the first things I notice in coaching is that when someone can't name what they're feeling, communication gaps start forming. Because if you can't name the feeling, you can't communicate it. And when emotions aren't named, they don't disappear, they leak. They show up as passive aggression, overgiving, resentment. So early on in my work with clients, we practice something very simple. I feel. It sounds basic, but it's foundational. Feelings can be activators. They can trigger survival mode. If an emotion feels too intense, the nervous system may interpret that discomfort as a threat. And when the nervous system detects threat, it shifts into protection. For me, that used to look like dissociation. I would shut down, avoid, create distance from the emotion with TV, food, procrastination, sleep. Dissociation becomes normal for many of us. Naming feelings keeps us connected. I used to say, I don't know, whenever my wife asked how I was feeling. What I really meant was, I'm feeling vulnerable. I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to admit it. I'm afraid of what it might mean about me if I name what I'm feeling. By not acknowledging how I felt, I would shut down and perpetuate the feeling. Naming feelings was one of the ways I began building emotional capacity. Before I learned to name my emotions, I was already feeling them. Not naming them didn't make them disappear. It just made me unconscious of them. And what you resist persists. Trying to avoid a feeling is a false premise. You can't avoid feelings. Avoiding a feeling perpetuates it. If you want to change a feeling, you have to think different thoughts that create a different emotion. Now, there are times and places to process emotions. Sometimes you genuinely don't have the capacity in the moment. Sometimes you have to consciously tell yourself, I'll process this later. But the key word is consciously. You're not ignoring it, you're acknowledging it and choosing when to return to it. That's very different from suppression. Imagine you're on a busy shift at work, your boss leaves early and expects you to stay late without communicating it in advance. You notice you feel undervalued, but you don't have the cognitive bandwidth to unpack it right then. So you say to yourself, I don't like how that felt when that happened. I think I felt undervalued. I can't process this right now, but I will after work. That's conscious postponement. Where it becomes a slippery slope is when later never comes. If you consciously push it off without naming the emotion or examining the pattern, suppression sets in and unwanted results continue. The goal, though, is to be more practiced at identifying emotions in real time, because doing so is an act of self empowerment. When you can name the emotion you're feeling, you can notice the thoughts creating it and decide whether those thoughts are ones you want to keep thinking. That's where your power returns. The practice I want to invite you into is this. First, get yourself a feeling wheel. If you don't already have one, just go to your search engine and type in feeling wheel and download an image. I'll also include a link in the show notes. Once you have a feeling wheel, set a few random alarms on your phone over the next few days. When one goes off, pause, take out your feeling wheel, and name how you're feeling in that moment. Then notice where you feel it in your body. Is it in your chest, your stomach, your jaw? This builds emotional awareness in real time. It builds capacity, and it makes this work tangible. Without coherence, facing feelings, especially uncomfortable ones, can feel overwhelming. It can feel unsafe. It can feel like you might get swallowed by them. And when your nervous system is in survival mode, of course it feels that way. A state of coherence makes this work more accessible. It increases your capacity to stay in your body even when something uncomfortable comes up. And when it feels safer to feel, you stop reacting from survival and start responding from choice. That's when everything changes. If you want support cultivating coherence, I offer a 4-week Stop, Drop, Create Coherence video series, a self-led container filled with evidence-based coherence practices designed to help you come out of survival mode and build a new baseline of regulation and capacity. You can find it at shamantaima.com under the Stop, Drop, Create Coherence tab. That's ShamanTaima.com under the Stop, Drop, Create Coherence tab.